I'm Fiona Grant. I'm 30 years old. I worked really hard planning my mom's birthday party at an old, beautiful house in Savannah, Georgia. I took care of every small thing, every smell, every decoration. It was all my job. I thought this would be the night my family would finally notice me and see how hard I worked. But instead, they gave out special t-shirts. Everyone got one. Mine said "Biggest disgrace to this family" in big black letters. My sister smiled meanly and threw it across the table to me. "Don't be so serious. It's just a joke," she said. My mom laughed quietly like it didn't matter. My dad shrugged his shoulders a little and wouldn't look at me. My brother laughed softly while drinking his drink. Even my aunt clapped like it was the funniest thing ever. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I folded the shirt neatly, put it next to my plate, and forced myself to smile. My hands were shaking as I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of papers. They were thick, official, and important. Everyone was looking at me now. I held the papers up and tore them in half, slowly and carefully, page by page. The room became quiet. My sister's mean smile disappeared. "What are you doing?" she said angrily. I didn't answer. I dropped the torn papers on the table, turned around and walked out. The mansion's big, heavy doors creaked behind me. An hour later, my phone started buzzing with calls, texts, and voicemails, one after another. They had read what I destroyed. They knew what was in those papers. And they wouldn't stop calling. Do you think I did the right thing? Comment your thoughts below. Growing up in our home in the suburbs of Atlanta, I was the different one. My sister Trisha is 5 years older than me. She was the perfect child, a cheerleader and prom queen. She got married when she was 25. She's going places, my mom Susan would say proudly, putting another one of Trisha's awards on the fridge. My brother Kevin is 2 years older than me. He could do nothing wrong. He'd crash his bike, skip school, and fail tests, and my dad David would just mess up his hair playfully. "Boys will be boys," he'd say. Me. I was forgotten. When I was 10, I won a science fair. Mom barely looked at my trophy. "Don't get too proud of yourself, Fiona," she said. Dad nodded, his eyes on his newspaper. Trisha smiled meanly. "It's just a kids' contest." Kevin laughed while tossing his football. Being ignored by them hurt, but I kept quiet about it. By high school, I learned to stay quiet. Trisha got a car for her 16th birthday. I got a lecture about being responsible. Kevin got new sneakers every season. I wore clothes handed down from others. I studied harder. I joined a debate club and earned scholarships. Overachiever, Trisha would say in a mean way, like it was a bad thing. Mom and Dad never came to my events. They were too busy with Trisha's beauty pageants or Kevin's games. My Aunt Joyce, Mom's older sister, would sometimes pat my shoulder. "You're doing fine, Fiona," she'd say, but it felt like she felt sorry for me. I really wanted them to be proud of me, but it never happened. College was my way to escape. I moved to Athens, Georgia, studied event planning, and worked really hard at internships. I planned fancy parties, weddings, and business events. Each one was sharper, bigger, and better. By the time I was 25, I started my own company called Coastal Events. It grew fast with business clients, celebrity weddings, and festivals. Within 5 years, it was worth $20 million. I didn't brag about it. I didn't need to. But I still sent money home. When Mom's hospital bills piled up after her knee surgery, I paid them all, $80,000. I didn't ask any questions. When Trisha's kid needed braces, I paid for it. Kevin's car broke down. I sent him $10,000. Christmas gifts, birthday checks, random money deposits. I never said a word. They never asked where the money came from. "Fiona's just lucky," Trisha would say, rolling her eyes. Mom and Dad took the money. No thank you, no questions. I thought being successful would change how they saw me. I'd show up to family dinners dressed nicely, driving a leased BMW, and dropping small hints about my work. "I booked a big client last week," I'd say. Mom would change the subject. "Trisha's redecorating her house," she'd gush. Dad would nod. "Kevin's starting a new job." My wins didn't matter. To them, I was still the kid who didn't fit in. Trisha would whisper to Kevin loud enough for me to hear, "She's trying too hard." He'd snicker. Aunt Joyce might smile weakly, but she never spoke up. I kept trying, though. I'd call Mom every week, send Dad articles about my work, and invite Trisha to my events. Nothing worked. They'd cancel at the last minute, make excuses, or just forget. Once I heard Dad tell a neighbor, "Fiona's fine, I guess." Not like Trisha or Kevin. It hurt deeply, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I poured everything into my work. Coastal Events got a contract with a major tech company, $500,000 for one fancy party. I hired workers, opened a second office, and kept climbing higher. But every family visit reminded me that I was invisible to them. The money I sent wasn't enough either. Trisha asked for more, $20,000 for a new kitchen. I paid it. Kevin needed cash for a business idea, $15,000 gone in a month. Mom and Dad's house payments were late. I covered 6 months, $90,000. They never said thank you. They never asked how I did it. I told myself it was fine. I was helping. Maybe one day they'd see me, really see me. That hope kept me connected to them even when it hurt. Planning my mom's birthday was my last try to change their minds. I threw myself into planning Mom's birthday, and I wanted it to be unforgettable, a chance to prove I wasn't the failure they saw. I chose an old, beautiful mansion in Savannah, Georgia, with its big columns and large gardens, perfect for a big celebration. My company, Coastal Events, handled every detail. I hired a caterer for a 5-course dinner, hired a jazz band with 4 musicians, and ordered a custom cake with Mom's favorite lemon cream flavor. I spent weeks creating a guest list of family, old friends, and neighbors, over 100 people. The budget was $75,000, all from my own money. I didn't hesitate. If this didn't make them see me, nothing would. I called Mom to share the plans. "I'm renting a mansion in Savannah," I said with a steady voice. "It'll be special." She paused, then sighed. "Sounds like a lot, Fiona. Don't overdo it." Her voice was flat, like I was planning a simple backyard barbecue. I pushed forward, mentioning the live music. "Jazz is nice," she said, distracted. "But don't expect everyone to show up." I bit my lip, nodding to myself. Dad was no better. I texted him a photo of the venue. "Looks fancy," he replied. "Nothing else." Trisha was worse. I called her excited about the cake. "Lemon cream." "Really?" she said, laughing. "Mom's not into that anymore." I knew she was wrong. Mom had loved it for years, but I let it go. Kevin didn't even pick up his phone. I left a voicemail about the guest list. No response. Aunt Joyce was the only one who seemed a little bit interested. "That's sweet of you, Fiona," she said when I mentioned the mansion. "But keep it simple, okay?" Her advice felt like a pat on the head, not real support. I brushed it off and focused on work. My team at Coastal Events was working really hard. We got a flower person for orchid centerpieces, rented crystal chandeliers, and designed a photo booth with old-fashioned props. I stayed up late at night fixing the seating chart, making sure Mom's friends had the best spots. Every detail screamed perfection. But I wasn't just planning a party. I was building a moment, a chance for them to finally notice me. Beyond the party, I prepared something bigger. I wrote a contract to give 10% of Coastal Events shares to Mom and Dad, worth $2 million. It wasn't just money. It was a piece of my success, a way to say, I made it and I'm sharing it. I also set up a special college savings account for Trisha's 2 kids, $50,000 each, to pay for college. I imagined handing the papers to Mom at the party, her eyes lighting up, Dad nodding with approval, Trisha's rare smile. I pictured Kevin clapping me on the back, Aunt Joyce whispering, "I knew you could do it." That thought kept me going through sleepless nights. I sent the family a group text asking for their ideas on the menu. Trisha replied, "Whatever, Fiona. Just don't mess it up." Kevin sent a thumbs-up emoji, his only help. Mom called, but only to ask if I'd invited her old coworker. "She's important," Mom said, ignoring my questions about decorations. Dad didn't respond at all. I tried one last time, emailing them a draft schedule. Cocktail hour, dinner, speeches, dancing. Trisha shot back. "Too much. People will get bored." Kevin ignored it. Aunt Joyce replied, "Looks busy. Hope it works out." Mom and Dad stayed silent. Their lack of interest stung, but I didn't let it show. I double-checked the contracts with my lawyer, making sure the share transfer was perfect. The college savings account paperwork was ready, with the names of Trisha's kids neatly printed. I put both into a nice folder, picturing the moment I'd present them. I told myself their coldness was just a habit. They'd see the effort, the mansion, the food, the music, the papers. They'd see me. I spent the final week in Savannah watching over the setup. My team hung lights, tested sound systems, and arranged tables. I barely slept, running on coffee and hope. This wasn't just a party. It was my last chance to change their minds. The party arrived faster than I expected. The night of Mom's party began perfectly. The jazz band played softly. Guests mixed with cocktails, and the 5-course dinner was perfect. I stood by the head table watching Mom smile as old friends made toast to her 60 years. For a moment I thought I'd done it, made them proud. Then Trisha stood up holding a stack of folded t-shirts, her eyes shining with mischief. "We've got a surprise," she announced, her voice sharp and playful. She passed them out to the family, each one custom printed. Mom got best mom ever. Dad said king of the house. Kevin said favorite son. Aunt Joyce's was family rock. Mine came last. Trisha tossed it to me, smirking. "Go on, Fiona. Open it." I unfolded the shirt. Black letters screamed, "Biggest disgrace to this family." The room froze. Laughter broke the silence. Susan chuckled first, covering her mouth like it was a playful joke. David's low laugh followed, his eyes darting away. Kevin shrugged, grinning as he leaned back in his chair. Aunt Joyce clapped, nodding like it was the best joke she'd heard. Trisha stood proud, arms crossed. "Relax, Fiona. It's just for laughs," she said, her tone daring me to react. Guests shifted uncomfortably, some forcing smiles, others looking down. My chest tightened, but I didn't flinch. Years of being dismissed. Trisha's mean comments, Mom's indifference, Dad's silence, Kevin's apathy flashed through me. This wasn't a joke. It was their truth. I set the shirt on the table, my hand steady, despite the heat rising in my face. "Funny," I said, my voice calm, almost cold. I reached into my bag, pulling out the folder I'd prepared, the contract for $2 million in company shares, the college savings account for Trisha's kids, $50,000 each. I held it up, letting them see the crisp, official pages. Trisha's smirk faded. "What's that?" she asked, leaning forward. I didn't answer. Instead, I gripped the folder and tore it in half, then again and again. The ripping sound echoed in the quiet room. Pages fluttered to the floor. Susan gasped, her hand dropping. David's jaw tightened. Kevin sat up, eyes wide. Aunt Joyce stopped clapping, her face pale. Trisha stepped closer. "Fiona, what the hell?" she snapped, her voice shaking. I kept tearing, slow and deliberate, until the papers were confetti at my feet. The guests stared, some whispering, others frozen. I looked at Trisha, then Mom, then Dad. "You think I'm a disgrace," I said, my voice low but clear. "Fine. Let's see how you do without me." I dropped the last shred, turned, and walked toward the mansion's heavy doors. Trisha called after me. "You're overreacting." Mom's voice cracked. "Fiona, come back." Kevin muttered something I didn't catch. Dad said nothing, his chair scraping as he stood. Aunt Joyce reached out. "Wait, honey." I didn't stop. The doors thudded shut behind me, muffling their voices. I stepped into the cool Savannah night, my heart pounding, but my mind clear. I'd spent years chasing their approval. No more. The drive back to my hotel was silent, my phone still in my purse. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. I knew they'd realize what those papers were. The shares that could have made Mom and Dad's future secure, the college savings account for Trisha's kids. They'd see what they'd thrown away. I pulled into the hotel parking lot, parked, and leaned back in my seat. For the first time in years, I felt light. Not angry, not sad, just free. By morning, I had 20 missed calls and a flood of texts. Trisha's came first, a voicemail dripping with anger. "You think you're clever, Fiona, ruining Mom's party like that? You're pathetic." I deleted it without a second thought. Susan's message was softer but sharp. "Fiona, we need to talk. Those papers, what were they?" "Call me." David's text was blunt. "You went too far. Fix this." Kevin sent a single line. "Nice stunt, Fiona. Real mature." Aunt Joyce left a voicemail, her voice shaky. Honey, I didn't mean to laugh. Let's sort this out. I ignored them all, my phone screen glowing with their panic. They'd figured out what I'd torn up. A guest had gathered the shredded papers, $2 million in company shares for Mom and Dad, $50,000 each for Trisha's kids' college funds. Trisha figured it out first, probably when she saw the letterhead of my lawyer's company on a piece. She didn't call again. Instead, she took to social media. Her post on Facebook was public, tagged with my name, Fiona Grant. The drama queen ruined our mom's 60th birthday with her tantrum. Tore up important papers just to make a scene. It got lots of likes from her friends, with comments calling me ungrateful and spoiled. I scrolled through it, my stomach tight, but I didn't respond. I'd learned long ago that arguing with Trisha was like shouting into emptiness. Susan and David didn't bother with phones anymore. They started talking to anyone who'd listen. Neighbors, cousins, Mom's book club. Fiona's always been dramatic, Susan told her friend over coffee, loud enough for it to spread. She lost it at the party. Destroyed something important. David nodded along at a family friend's barbecue, adding, she's got no respect. Never has. Their words got back to me through a mutual friend who texted, horrified. Your parents are saying you had a breakdown. I stared at the message, my jaw clenched. They weren't just upset. They were rewriting the story to make me the villain. Kevin piled on, texting me again. You embarrassed us all. Why can't you just be normal? His words stung, but I didn't reply. Trisha's posts kept coming. She shared a photo of a t-shirt with the caption, "This was a joke," but Fiona made it all about her. Typical. Her followers ate it up, leaving laughing emojis and comments like, "What a mess." I watched the notifications pile up, each one a jab, but I stayed silent. My phone rang again. Susan, then David, then Aunt Joyce. Voicemail stacked up. Susan's tone shifted to begging. Fiona, we didn't mean it like that. Call us back. David's was gruff. You can't just walk away like this. Joyce's was gentler. We're family, Fiona. Let's fix it. Kevin sent another text. You owe Mom an apology. I powered off my phone, the screen going black. Their desperation wasn't about me. It was about what they'd lost. Those papers weren't just gifts. They were lifelines. Mom and Dad relied on my money to pay their debts, $90,000 for their house payments alone last year. Trisha's family leaned on my checks for extras like her kids' private school fees. Kevin's business ideas burned through my cash. They never thanked me, never asked how I managed it. Now, with those papers gone, they saw the hole I'd been filling. But instead of owning their part in that cruel joke, they doubled down, painting me as the problem. Trisha's posts got bolder, accusing me of hurting the family. Susan and David's rumors spread wider, reaching my old high school friends. Kevin's texts grew sharper. You're selfish, Fiona. Always have been. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I sat on my hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of their words, but refusing to carry it. They'd shown me who they were again. Their calls, their posts, their rumors weren't apologies. They were demands, excuses, guilt trips. I'd spent years giving them everything, hoping for a tiny bit of respect. Now they'd lost more than papers. They'd lost me. A week after the Party Inc. magazine published a feature article on me. A reporter had reached out months earlier, impressed by Coastal Events' rise. I'd hesitated, not wanting to seem like I was bragging, but after the t-shirt stunt, I agreed to the interview. The article appeared online, titled Fiona Grant, the event planner who built a $20 million empire. It laid out my journey, starting with nothing, building a company that handled high-profile fancy parties and quietly supporting my family for years. It detailed the $80,000 for Mom's hospital bills, $20,000 for Trisha's kitchen remodel, $10,000 for Kevin's car, and countless other payments, none of which they'd ever said thank you for. The reporter didn't mention the party. I'd kept that private, but the truth about what I'd given them was now public. The response was instant. My inbox flooded with messages from strangers, business owners, single moms, people who'd felt overlooked by their families. You're an inspiration, one wrote. Another said, I cut off my toxic relatives too. Social media buzzed. A Twitter thread about the article went viral with thousands of likes and retweets. Fiona Grant deserves better, one user posted. Her family took her money and called her a disgrace. Unreal. Hashtags like #FionaGrant and #FamilyTruth trended for days. My followers on Instagram doubled, then tripled. Clients sent emails praising my work, some offering new contracts. A local charity invited me to speak at their fancy party. I read every message, every comment, my heart swelling. For the first time, I felt seen, not by my family, but by the world. Trisha's world fell apart first. Her Facebook posts backfired. People who'd seen the article started commenting on her page. You called her a disgrace after she paid for your kids' school? Her followers dropped by the hundreds. A local boutique chain where she'd been a brand ambassador canceled her contract worth $15,000 a year, saying they didn't share the same values. Trisha tried to save face, posting a vague apology. I didn't mean to upset anyone. It was a misunderstanding. It got no traction. Her friends stopped engaging, and her posts dried up. She texted me once, short and curt. You didn't have to go public. I didn't reply. Her anger wasn't my problem anymore. Kevin hit a wall next. He'd been pitching a startup to investors, counting on my name to boost his credibility. After the article, a venture capitalist emailed him declining a $200,000 loan. We can't back someone tied to that family drama, the email said, forwarded to me by a mutual contact. Kevin's texts turned desperate. Fiona, you're ruining my life. Talk to these people. I ignored him. He'd never cared about my efforts before. Now he was paying the price. His startup stalled, and he started borrowing from friends, his confidence crumbling. Susan and David felt the squeeze hardest. They'd relied on my money to keep their lifestyle going, $90,000 for their house payments, plus smaller checks for vacations and car repairs. Without my support, their savings went down fast. Susan called her bank, only to learn their credit line was maxed out. David tried to refinance their home, but the lender turned him down, saying their finances weren't stable. Neighbors whispered about their troubles, some linking it to the article. Susan left me a voicemail, her voice tight. Fiona, we're struggling. You didn't have to do this. David sent a text. This isn't right. We're your parents. I listened, then deleted. Their words felt hollow, more about their wallets than regret. Aunt Joyce tried to play peacemaker. She emailed me saying, Fiona, I read the article. I didn't know how much you'd done. Can we talk? I appreciated her effort, but it was too late. She clapped to that t-shirt, laughed with the rest. I didn't respond. The article hadn't just exposed my work. It had shown me who they really were. The public support gave me strength. A podcast host invited me to share my story, and a women's network nominated me for an entrepreneurship award. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. The article shifted everything. My family's lies, Trisha's posts, Susan and David's rumors, Kevin's blame, fell apart under the truth. They painted me as the problem, but the world saw through it. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The comments, the messages, the new opportunities, they were enough. I'd spent years chasing their approval, but now I had something better. Respect from people who valued me for me. Their attacks didn't stop. Trisha doubled down on social media, posting a long rant on Instagram. Fiona's lies in that magazine are tearing us apart. She's always been jealous. Her followers, already thinned out, didn't buy it. Comments piled up calling her out. You took her money and mocked her. Own it. A local news blog picked up the story, quoting the Inc. magazine article and Trisha's post side by side. The contrast was clear, my quiet contributions against her public anger. Her account lost another 1,000 followers, and her boutique client stopped returning calls. Trisha's rage fizzled as the public turned away, leaving her shouting into an empty echo chamber. Susan and David tried a different tactic. They cornered friends at a community potluck, spinning a tale of my betrayal. Fiona turned her back on us, Susan said, her voice trembling for effect. David added, she's changed. Thinks she's above us. But the article had spread too far. A neighbor interrupted. Didn't she pay your hospital bills? Their faces froze. The crowd grew quiet, and the story died there. Their attempts to paint me as ungrateful crumbled, replaced by whispers of their own hypocrisy. They stopped talking about me publicly, their credibility shot. Kevin's attacks were more direct. He emailed me, accusing me of sabotaging his career. "Your little article cost me everything," he wrote. "I'm out of a job now." He'd been fired from his sales position after his boss read the article and questioned his ethics. Kevin's temper flared in another email. "You owe me, Fiona." I didn't respond. His job loss wasn't my fault. He built his career on borrowed money in my name, never his own effort. His messages stopped coming, his bravado replaced by silence. Aunt Joyce made one last attempt to bridge the gap. She showed up at my Savannah office unannounced, her face lined with worry. "Fiona, I'm sorry," she said, clutching a handwritten letter. "I didn't realize how much you'd given. Can we start over?" Her words were kind, but they rang hollow. She'd stood by during years of slights, clapped at that T-shirt. I shook my head. "I'm done, Aunt Joyce," I said, my voice firm but not cruel. "I've given enough." She left, letter in hand, her shoulders slumped. I felt a pang, but I didn't chase her. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Trisha's life unraveled further. Her husband, tired of her public outbursts and mounting debts, filed for divorce. The settlement left her with little. Her brand deals were gone, and my financial help was a memory. She moved into a smaller apartment, her social media now private. Kevin struggled, too. Without my cash to prop him up, he couldn't land another job. His startup dreams faded, and he took a part-time gig at a car dealership, barely scraping by. Susan and David faced the worst. Their savings drained. They put their Atlanta home up for sale. The realtor's sign went up last month, a stark symbol of their fall. They downsized to a condo, selling heirlooms to cover bills. I heard this from a cousin, not them. They never reached out again. I didn't watch their collapse with joy. It wasn't revenge. It was consequence. I'd spent years holding them up only to be mocked. Now, without me, their lives reflected their choices. Meanwhile, I thrived. Coastal Events landed a new contract, a $1 million festival in Miami. I hired 10 more staff, opened a third office, and spoke at a national conference. My inbox stayed full, not with family demands, but with invitations, podcasts, panels, even a book deal offer. I bought a small house by the coast, a place that felt like mine. Morning started with coffee on the porch, the ocean breeze carrying no guilt, no expectations. 2 years later, I stood taller in a packed ballroom in Atlanta. The National Women's Business Council named me Entrepreneur of the Year. The crowd, 500 people from CEOs to startup founders, rose to their feet, clapping as I stepped to the podium. My navy dress hugged my frame, my hair swept up, a silver award gleaming in my hands. I smiled, not for cameras, but for myself. The citation praised Coastal Events, now valued at $25 million, for redefining the industry. They praised my resilience, my innovation, my quiet charity, donations to local shelters, scholarships for single mothers. I spoke briefly, thanking my team, my clients, and the strangers who lifted me up. I didn't mention my family. They weren't part of this moment. After the ceremony, my phone lit up with messages. Not from Trisha, Kevin, Susan, David, or Aunt Joyce. None of them had reached out since Aunt Joyce's visit. The texts came from people I'd never met. A young woman in Texas wrote, "Your story gave me courage to leave my toxic job. Thank you." A father in Chicago messaged, "I read about you in Inc. magazine. You inspired me to stand up to my parents." A college student emailed, "I'm starting my own business because of you." Each note felt like a spark, warming a part of me I'd thought was gone. I saved everyone, rereading them on quiet nights, a reminder that my worth wasn't tied to my family's approval. I'd heard bits about them, mostly through distant cousins. Trisha was rebuilding, working a retail job after her divorce, her social media silent. Kevin had moved to a smaller town, taking odd jobs, his startup dreams abandoned. Susan and David settled into their condo, living modestly, their social circle smaller now. Aunt Joyce sent a Christmas card last year, signed only with her name. I didn't respond. Their lives had moved on, and so had mine. I didn't check their updates anymore, didn't wonder what they thought. Their voices, once so loud in my head, had faded to nothing. The award wasn't the only milestone. Coastal Events expanded, securing a $2 million contract for a national music festival. I opened a fourth office in New York, hired 20 new staff, and launched a mentorship program for young women in business. My coastal home became my sanctuary with a garden I tended myself, roses blooming under my care. I hosted dinners for friends, real ones who laughed at my jokes, not my pain. I traveled, speaking at conferences in Seattle, Miami, London. Each trip, each speech built a life that felt full, not because of awards, but because I'd chosen myself. The lesson came slowly, carved from years of hurt. I'd spent my life chasing acceptance, Trisha's respect, Kevin's gratitude, Mom and Dad's pride, Aunt Joyce's understanding. I tied my value to their nods, their smiles, their brief approval. But that night in Savannah, when I walked away, I learned something sharper. Self-respect matters more. No one's validation, not even family's, defines your worth. You do. I'd given them everything, money, time, love, and they'd thrown it back with a t-shirt and laughter. Walking away wasn't just about them. It was about me choosing to honor my own heart. Those messages from strangers taught me something else. Your story, when shared, can light someone else's path. I started a blog, not for fame, but to connect. I wrote about building a business, surviving betrayal, finding peace. Readers responded, sharing their own struggles, abusive families, dismissive bosses, dreams they'd buried. I answered every email, every comment, offering what I'd craved, someone to say, "You're enough." My words reached thousands, then millions. A publisher approached me for a memoir. I signed the deal, not for money, but to keep the spark alive. Standing on that stage, award in hand, I didn't feel triumph over my family. I felt free. The weight of their expectations, their mockery, their lies, it was gone. I'd built a life that reflected who I was, not who they wanted me to be. The applause faded, but the lesson stayed. Respect yourself first, and the world will follow. I walked off the stage, my steps light, knowing I'd found my place, not in their shadow, but in my own.